Hello everyone. Welcome to an explanation video on how maps are picked in Charlie's Perfect Math class. We're going to be going through a theoretical match between Cooksy and Springlane. Neither player is in the tournament, so as I said, this is just a theoretical match, just to explain how the map pools work. Alright, let's get started. So, first of all, as you can see, there are three map pools, A, B, and C, with each map pool being divided into starters and counterpicks, indicated by the S or C icon on the left side of the map box. I have currently drawn black boxes around the starter pools, so you can clearly see, and here you can see that in right there underlined that yes, there's the S1 text and C1 text to indicate the map. I'm going to be explaining what those mean in just a bit, but let's first go through what the map pools themselves are. So starting off, there are three map pools, and we need to select one of them to play. We're not going to be playing all three at once, we're just going to be playing one of them. And the way we accomplish picking a map pool is taking both players here, so we have Cooksy and Springlane. Both of them will message the referee on a map pool they wish to ban. So let's say Cooksy messages the referee first. Doesn't need to be in order, they can both message at the same time, but let's say Cooksy was just really fast at messaging the referee. And let's say that Cooksy really doesn't want to play map pool B. Okay. Cooksy does not like map pool B for whatever reason. Cooksy decides to ban map pool B. Now, let's say Springlane follows up. Let's change Springlane's color here. Springlane's ban is going to be cyan instead of red. Let's say Springlane doesn't like map pool C. Alright, Springlane bans map pool C. So then we end up on map pool A. So map pool A is the one that's picked. Now, you might be thinking, well, what if both players ban the same map pool? In this case, let's say that Springlane were to ban map pool B alongside Cooksy. Neither player knows each other's bans, only the referee does, so this is completely possible to happen. So what if both players ban the same map pool? Well, in that case, the referee is going to be doing a roll. So referee is going to be going !roll 2, and the roll, of course, can be either 1 or 2, and depending on the number, the pool picked will, in this case, be either A or C, depending on the number, so it will be up to random chance as to which pool was played. So let's say the roll lands on 1, which means we pick pool A. So, we are now on pool A. Let's get a nice green color here to indicate that we have picked map pool A. Alright, we have now picked map pool A, so we can move on to actually picking maps. So, let's start off with another roll. So let's say both players do a roll 100, and Cooksy gets a roll 60, and Springlane rolls a 3. Okay, so that means Cooksy won the roll, so Cooksy will start striking. Okay, what is striking? So that is what the letters here in the map pool indicate. So striking is the process of taking one map out of the pool at a time until one map is left, and then that map is going to be the first map that's picked. So how that goes is that since Cooksy won the roll, Cooksy is going to be banning one map from the starter pool. So that is all maps with the S icon next to them. Alright. Let's say that Cooksy really does not want to play Torikago. Alright, Cooksy bans strikes, sorry, not bans. Cooksy strikes Torikago. Alright, so the first map will not be Torikago. Next, it's Spring Lane's turn. Spring Lane gets 2 strikes. Okay, let's say Spring Lane really doesn't want to play Energy Synergy Matrix or Asphyxia. Alright. That leaves 2 maps left, and Kukazi will have 1 more strike left. Okay. Kukazi decides to strike Flying Out to the Sky, and we end up on Astro Sexy. So Astro Sexy will be the first map that is picked. That is the starter map. So in this case, let's say that both players play the map, and let's say that Kukazi wins. Kukazi is now 1-0 by winning on Astro Sexy. Astro Sexy has been picked, so Astro Sexy cannot be picked again. However, all these other maps that were just struck, those can still be picked, right? We only struck for the first map. Striking is like banning, but only for the first map. Okay? So Astro Sexy has been picked. Kukazi won that pick. And now, since Kukazi won, the loser is going to be picking next. So Spring Lane lost Astro Sexy, so Spring Lane is going to be picking next. Let's say Spring Lane decides to pick Ultramarine. Alright, Spring Lane goes for Ultramarine. Alright, let's say Spring Lane wins that pick. Alright, Spring Lane picks Ultramarine, now the match is 1-1. And since Spring Lane won, again, we have loser picks. Next, Kukazi picks. Let's say Kukazi picks Turupettan. Kukazi wins Turupettan. And now it's Spring Lane's turn to pick once again. Now let's say that Spring Lane decides to pick Midoriga Queen B. Alright, but Spring Lane isn't so lucky. Kukazi manages to go 3-1. Alright, it's 3-1 in Kukazi's favor. Kukazi won the counter pick here. So since Kukazi won the counter pick, and Spring Lane lost, Spring Lane gets to pick again. So it's always the loser that picks, it's not in turns. Alright, Spring Lane gets to pick again, and Spring Lane picks Fist Bump. Let's say Kukazi wins yet again, it is now 4-1. And finally Spring Lane goes for the last pick, it's going to be Torikago, and guess what? Oh, Kukazi wins again. Kukazi wins the match 5-1, and there you go. So Spring Lane decided to pick most of the maps there. So Spring Lane only lost to Kukazi. Kukazi only got to pick 1 map, which was Turupettan. That's because Kukazi only lost 1 map, which was Ultramarine. Alright, I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, please ask me a question on Discord. I hope this was clear. I might have gone a little fast, but I hope that's a decent explanation of the match procedure. Alright, let's move on to our next subject. Round Robin. Alright, so I'm going to be explaining the Round Robin format because I found out that there aren't a lot of Osu players who have actually played in a Round Robin tournament, because nowadays the format isn't as common because most tournaments go straight from a qualifier to a bracket. They skip the Round Robin. Back in the olden days, we didn't have qualifiers, we had a Round Robin pool, so the qualifiers kind of replaced that. But now this time we have both. So let's go through Round Robin. So let's say we have a group. Let's say we have Spring Lane, we have Kukazi. So let's say that match that was played earlier was part of this group. And then we have 2 more players. We have Wolf and Raruchi. My age is really showing. Alright, so in a round robin pool, or sorry, group, rather, I should say. In a round robin group, I put pools, sorry. Groups. They're called pools in other games, but of course that term is taken in Osu with map pools. But yeah, here we go. We have Group A. Alright, Group A, and we have these players. So in a round-robin format, everyone plays against each other once. So that means there are 6 matches total. There's Spring Lane versus let's put a dot there. Spring Lane versus Cookazy. Then there's Spring Lane versus Wolf. We have Spring Lane versus Raruchi. Then we have Cookazy versus Wolf. We have Cookazy versus Raruchi and Wolf versus Raruchi. All right. So there are 6 matches in total. So if we go to the group stage schedule here, you can see that in every group there are 6 matches organized in the same way as here. So this is an emulation of how any of these groups could work out. Now, let's say we have matches here. So we had the score was already played here. So we have Cookazy, who beat Spring Lane 1-5. Gonna be, let's make up some results for the rest. Let's say Spring Lane managed to beat Wolf 5-4. And let's say Spring Lane beats Raruchi 5-0. Spring Lane really popped off there. Then we have Cookazy versus Wolf. Say it's a really close match, but Cookazy takes it in the end, 5-4. Then we have Cookazy versus Raruchi. Say Cookazy wins 5-2. Then we have Wolf versus Raruchi. Say it's a really close match, and it goes to 5-4 to Wolf. Okay. Let's see what we have here. So in matches, let's see, Cookazy won all of his matches. So Cookazy went 3-0. Then next up, we have Spring Lane, who beat both Wolf and Raruchi, but lost to Cookazy. So Spring Lane goes 2-1. Then we have Wolf, who barely lost to Spring Lane and Cookazy, but just barely manages to beat Raruchi. We have Wolf, who went 1-2, and then Raruchi, unfortunately, despite a couple close calls, Raruchi went 0-3. Unfortunate. So here we have the seeding. So in Charlie's Perfect Math class, we have the top seed of each group moves on to winner's bracket, the second seed moves on to loser's bracket, and the bottom 2, unfortunately, get eliminated. But of course, this is not the only way a group can go. A group can also go in a couple of other ways. So let's say that how would I say this? That Spring Lane managed to beat Cookazy, but ended up losing to Wolf. So we have a situation like that. Okay? Let's do another little simulation here. I'm gonna copy this here. All right? Do another little simulation of the matches. So I'm gonna just, for the sake of simplicity, we're just gonna assume that I'm just gonna do like some simple scores. So let's say Spring Lane beat Cookazy 5-1. Spring Lane lost to Wolf 0-5. Then we have Spring Lane versus Raruchi. Spring Lane beat Raruchi 5-0. We have Cookazy and Wolf. Let's say Cookazy managed to beat Wolf 5-0. Managed to beat Raruchi 5-0. And then Wolf manages to beat Raruchi 5-0. Okay? A lot of confusing results there, but let's break it down. So, we have Spring Lane, who beat Cookazy. So Spring Lane gets 1 point. Then we have Wolf, who beat Spring Lane, gets 1 point. And then we have Cookazy, who beat Wolf, and that means that Cookazy gets 1 point there, and all of the 3 players beat Raruchi. Okay, so what happens here? So this means that we have what is called a 3-way tie. So Cookazy went 2-1, Spring Lane went 2-1, and Wolf went 2-1, and Raruchi went 0-3. So what happens here? So in this case, you look at the tiebreakers. So if you go to the rule set here, we have a couple of tiebreakers. So let's go to the group stage. Here we have the tiebreakers. We start off with wins versus tied participants. Then we have total maps won. And then we have qualifier placement. Okay. So let's start with the first tiebreaker. So here we have Cookazy, who managed to actually take 1 point versus Spring Lane. Since we have a 3-way tie, the wins versus tied participants does not matter because all of the players who went 2-1, they beat each other. So this would lead us nowhere. So we have to go to the second tiebreaker, which is total maps won, which Cookazy managed to win 1 map more. So Cookazy ends up going into winner's bracket thanks to that tiebreaker. As so. But now we still have Spring Lane and Wolf. Spring Lane and Wolf had the same number of total maps won. But since Cookazy was already resolved, we will now do another tiebreaker between Spring Lane and Wolf. So in this case, we'll be taking wins versus tied participants. So in this case, let's look at the Spring Lane versus Wolf match. Wolf actually beat Spring Lane 5-0. So that means Wolf makes it out of groups in loser's bracket. And then Spring Lane, unfortunately, doesn't make it. And of course, Raruchi went 3-0. So Raruchi doesn't make it. So that's an example of the tiebreakers here and how those work. So I hope that makes sense. So this could also happen in 2-way tiebreakers. So for example, we could have, let's do another simulation. Let's say we have the same results, except that, let's say this went 5-0, and then we have Wolf versus Raruchi. Let's say Raruchi actually beat Wolf 5-0. Okay. So what we have now is that Cookazy went 2-1. Then we have Spring Lane, who went 2-1. But then we have Wolf, who went 1-2, and Raruchi, who also went 1-2. All right, so we have 2 clear winners here and 2 clear losers. But out of these 2, who goes to the winner's bracket? Well, in this case, we look at the match between these 2 players. So we look at Cookazy versus Spring Lane. Spring Lane managed to beat Cookazy. So looking at the tiebreaker rules, we have wins versus tied participants first. So in this case, Spring Lane makes it out into winners, and Cookazy makes it out into losers. And then looking at the placings here, we have Wolf and Raruchi. Raruchi beat Wolf, so going by the tied participants again, Ruruchi gets third place in groups, and Wolf is unfortunately last place. So even though Wolf beat Spring Lane, it was Wolf's only win, and since it was a non-tiebreaker situation, even if Wolf beat the top seed of the group, it doesn't actually matter. Wolf still ended up last place, which is very unfortunate. But that's how the rules work. So yeah, I hope this was an adequate example of how tiebreakers in group stages work, and how you can end up in the top spot in a three-way tie or a two-way tie in special cases. I suspect that most groups will go like this, but it's totally possible that one of these two situations will happen. You can also have, let's do one more simulation. It's just this, but in reverse. So let's say that we have Spring Lane versus Cookazy. Cookazy wins against Spring Lane 1-5. Then we have Spring Lane versus Wolf. Let's say Spring Lane beats Wolf 5-0. Then we have Spring Lane versus Ruruchi. Let's say Ruruchi beats Spring Lane 5-0. Then we have Cookazy versus Wolf. Let's say Wolf wins. And in Cookazy versus Ruruchi, let's say Ruruchi wins 5-0. And then we have Wolf versus Ruruchi. Let's say Ruruchi wins 5-0 again. Okay? So in this case, I just reversed the results of this. So we have Ruruchi, who absolutely demolished and won all of his matches. 5-0. Ruruchi God mode. Straight back to 2014. Ruruchi makes it out in winners, but then we have a three-way tie. It is so Cookazy beats Spring Lane. So it's 1-2. Then we have Spring Lane, who beat Wolf. So we have 1-2 for Spring Lane. And then we have Wolf versus Cookazy, and Wolf beat Cookazy. So we have a Wolf who went 1-2. We have another blue section here. So we have to resolve the tie. So what's the tie going to be? So in this case, Spring Lane did get more points. So since wins versus tied participants doesn't matter in a three-way tie, we go to total maps 1. Spring Lane won the most maps. So the end result is going to be Ruruchi, then Spring Lane with the 1-2. And then we have the two-way tie, once again, between Cookazy and Wolf. And since Wolf won that match, Wolf gets third place, and Cookazy is last place. There you go. So these are, these are all the different ways, I think, off the top of my head, that the group stages can go. And those are all the different types. Of course, the tiebreakers can work in different ways. As we see here, if both players have the same total maps 1, then the qualifier placement is the tiebreaker. And, well, there aren't any players with the same qualifier placement, so we don't have to do any coin flips. But yeah, I hope this was an adequate explanation on how map picking and both group stages in round robin work. I hope everything was clear, and I hope everything was clear. If you have any questions, please message me on Discord, or please message me on Discord actually. So if anything was unclear, I hope this explained it. All right, thank you.